talk to the legends of the creative and entertainment industries. We talk to those on the rise. Lance Dean Anthony Nielsen asks about the highs, the lows, and everything in between. This is Outcast Creative, and this is Industry Interviews.
Hello and welcome to Industry Interviews. I'm not quite sure what number it is. It's over 130 now, so I need to go through the list and update, but we're definitely over 130, on our way to 150. Might hit 150 before the end of the year because I am going to be packing them in between now and the end of December. I've got another industry interview tomorrow night at 8 o'clock with independent film director and DOP, director of photography, Richard Oakes, who's done many a horror film and was DOP on my last film, All in Good Time. Really interesting character. I've also got another DJ coming on next week. We've got more people from the London music rave scene coming on over the next couple of weeks. I've got some actors coming on. So I've got a whole range of really interesting guests. But before we get to those, I've got an interesting guest waiting for you already. And that is Luke Kelly, aka Lukozade, named after the drink. We're going to find out. He's been a DJ on the London day rave scene and one of the founders of an event called Raindance, which is one of the events close to my heart. Now, if you haven't heard of Raindance already, they have an event coming up at Heaven. It's an all-day. It's on the 15th of November. Tickets are still available. They are going fast. So I recommend you don't hesitate. I have been to Raindance. I've been to 2 of their events so far since I re-embraced the rave scene. And this one is going to be an absolute cracker. As I say, it's at Heaven. I haven't been to Heaven since the 90s. By that, I mean the nightclub, not literally Heaven upstairs. Obviously, I pop up there all the time just to check, see how things are going. But here we are. This is the flyer for the event. I'm going to plug this again at the end of the interview. The organizer, Richard, is a good friend of mine, really great guy. It's a great event because it's quite a mix of stuff, but we're going to talk about that with someone who will be able to tell us all about it firsthand, and we'll be talking about Raindance a little bit further in the interview. But without any further delay, let's get the man himself in, Luke Kelly. Welcome to the Outcast Creative, Luke.
Thank you very much, Lance. Yeah, good to be here. Very excited to be chatting.
I like the interesting piece of modern art behind you there. It's kind of like these are bricks taken from a giant's house.
Like. Yeah, so, I'd love to tell you a bit more about it, but we're in Spain at the moment, so it's not mine. It's a nice. It's nice, quite a nice backdrop for the call, I thought. But it's
oh mate, I'm already envious because I feel like it's probably substantially warmer over there, even though winter will soon be upon Spain as well. But it's got to be.
Yeah, the winter out here is a little bit different. So I nowadays work for myself and can work remotely, so I can sneak out to places like this when it gets cold a little bit. But like you say, Raindance coming up. I have to pull you up on the intro. You said I was one of the founders. I'd love to be able to claim that, but
did I say that? Sorry, that was that. I know that's not true. Actually, that would have been an error on my part. Sorry, but you're one of the people that's been with it early on. I think it's fair.
Early, well, kind of, yeah. I mean, I think it's Raindance kind of had. It's come in a couple of waves, you could say. So that it's like the original licensed all-night rave, September 1989, when it all kicked off. At that point, I was 9 years old, so I was not too involved, not involved at all.
You didn't start going to raves until you were at least 11. So
exactly,
years away.
But yeah, there was the sort of, as it came around and had its like big second coming moment as it went to London Bridge, sort of end of the 90s.
Yeah, SeOne. Yeah.
SeOne, well, it was the Drome originally. Yeah, it was a car park when Richard found it. And from that era, I was very involved and we'll talk about doing the DJing.
It's fair to say that you were involved in its heyday. And I mean, we'll circle back round that, but thank you for picking me up on that because that was an error that I was all too aware of actually. So glad you covered it before I mentioned
it. No worries.
But anyway, let me do my quick fire questions first, because every guest that comes on here, I always ask them the same things to start off with, just to get a sense of your background and how kind of creative culture impacted you growing up. And as you know, my background is in film and filmmaking. So the first question I always ask every guest is, what is the first movie you remember being taken to see as a kid on the big screen?
So I knew this was going to come, and I wanted to come up with a cooler answer than this, but it was actually Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure, and I was taken out of it because I was so scared, embarrassingly. But I must have been about 4 years old. Yeah, like early mid 80s, and my uncle and his then partner took me as a 4-year-old, thinking it would be
right.
You know, good for a little kid, and it was. I don't remember it, but I remember being terrified of Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure.
He's a bit of a creepy, scary character for a 4-year-old, I think.
Probably with good reason. Yeah, I don't know if he's been outed.
Yeah. Let's not go down that road.
Yeah.
What's the last movie you remember seeing on the big screen that you paid for a ticket to go and see?
So I do like film a lot. The last film I saw was Sinners. And I saw that. Was that
good movie?
This year, yeah, brilliant film. Yeah, it took me by surprise actually.
Yeah.
So earlier this year, I saw Sinners in Brixton.
Yeah, that was a great film, and the Ritzy Cinema in Brixton is a beautiful restored cinema. In fact, my friend Nicola Gregory, who I had lunch with today, she had the screening of the first 3 episodes of her new TV show, Dreaming Whilst Black Season 2. They screened that there. And it was packed. It was so packed, people had to sit on the floor. So I'm not sure it was health and safety conscious, but anyway, moving on. Is there a TV show since The Sopranos? So The Sopranos came out in the 1997. Is there a TV show since then that you've seen and got, oh, this is good, I'm into this, I've got to watch every season? Is there something that sticks in your head?
Yeah, to be honest, there's a few. I think since that era of The Sopranos, it's been like,
you can give me a couple
of that kind of TV. I would say Severance recently I got quite into, and got very into and watched pretty religiously.
That's a good show.
Ozark might be the other one. I was heavily big bit well invested in that. So those two would be the ones that I would pick out, I say. Yeah,
Severance is just a nuts kind of movie where someone's going to get their memory wiped because when they go to work, and then when they're out of work, they don't remember what their job is. I mean, it's just a bizarre, but incredibly engrossing concept. I do love that. All right, we're going to turn on to some music questions now. Do you remember the first vinyl single and album that you purchased?
I remember the first music. I remember like buying off my own back was. Do you remember? It was on cassette, not vinyl. It was EMF, Unbelievable.
Yeah, you're unbelievable.
Dun, 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 that's the one. Yeah. So I remember buying that on cassette. I do remember that the first bit of vinyl I bought was from Remix Records, and it was Jimmy J and Cruelty, Take Me Away. So that'd have been about 94.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. That's good. What was the first tune that you remember getting you on the dance floor? That would get you on the dance floor. You know, like it would come on. That's it. You're going for a bop.
So the sort of era I started going out to raves and dance floors were, calling. It would probably have been 31 Seconds. Valley of the Shadows, Origin Unknown, Valley of the Shadows was like the mega tune. It was, the jungle tune of all jungle tunes. And for like 2-3 years was being played out. And that, as I started going out, was the thing. If you heard that little intro, the bells or whatever that sample is coming in, straight on the dance floor.
I'm trying to. I mean, I must have heard it.
You will. I'll be horrified if you don't know. Well, I'll be very excited for you if you're going to hear.
I don't know. I'm going to put my hand up and say I'm not an authority in any way, shape, or form on jungle or drum and bass. Let's have a quick butchers.
Yeah,
of course I know this. Absolutely,
exactly.
Yeah.
It almost predates jungle, to be honest. It's like, so it's Origin Unknown, Andy C and Ant Miles, and it's that moment where jungle's just happening. And at the time, it was fairly unique, but like it was rinsed. It got played in hardcore sets a little bit, like all the jungle DJs playing it.
Yeah, I mean I'd say that gets played sort of across the board. I mean, you get that at house events as well, even now. I'm going to add that to my playlist right now. So that's one of my songs that I love. There we go. That's a good choice. So let's go back to the beginning. Where did you what part of the world did you grow up in, and when did you sort of first talk us through how you would first get drawn into music, what the origins of that were for you?
So I grew up in South London. So originally when I was born, we lived in the Oval and then moved to Tulse Hill, which is just the other side of Brixton. Yep. So grew up in South London. My dad was very into music. So music was always a big feature, you know, in my house, like listening to music very loud was something my dad did when I was young. And then being of that, so I was born in 1980, so the very early rave scene, it was so like public, you know, the whole acid house thing, it was on the news and stuff like that. And so you were kind of aware of it, even as, like we were joking before, like 9-10 years old, like kids didn't really know what you were doing, but running around the playground, like acid, all of that stuff.
And then, I remember that. I didn't even know what that meant at the time. I was just kept seeing the smiley badges everywhere, and I was like, what is all this?
Well, that's it. It was very, you know, it was, as a kid, it was always quite, so I was always drawn to so I was very into football and crowds and big crowds and wanting to go where, you know, interesting, slightly underground stuff was happening. So as I started to come of age and go to secondary school, the rave thing had obviously exploded, and being in fairly central London, South London, like pirate stations were, you know, in their heyday. And that became the thing at school, you know, like if you were in the know, you'd kind of know certain pirates and you'd be swapping tapes. So from the age of probably about 12, 13, I was like very, very into like hardcore, and then what was becoming jungle. And that became a thing, like where at school, were you still into hardcore? Did you like jungle and all of this sort of stuff? So that was my kind of entry point, really, sitting in my bedroom in Tulse.
That was around 95, 96, wasn't it? That was happening.
No, earlier. So like about 93. So the jungle thing, sort of hardcore, emerged out of acid house 1990. 91, 92 was the original sort of hardcore Fantasia and all of that. 93, it started to get a bit darker, and it's sort of at the end of 93, jungle starts happening. So as I'm about 13, 14, jungle starting to explode. That hardcore has become happy hardcore, which I got really into. So there was like Dream FM in London, 107.6, which came on as when everything went really dark. I got very obsessed with Dream FM and just spent all weekend listening to Dream, doing shouts. And that's what became, so when I was 15, I went to my first rave, actually at the Fridge in Brixton, which was a Dream all night. So that was the kind of entry point to me, pirate radio, and then getting into raves like that. And then from there, once I'd been to a rave, I was obsessed. That's all I wanted to do.
Okay, so was this happening while you were at school?
Yeah, so I mean, it was such a big sort of cultural explosion, but all still very underground. So there was this whole network of like, you know, underground record shops. It was all disconnected from like major labels and commercial radio and stuff.
It was still flyers, wasn't it? It was still flyers, and you know, there's going to be a party at this place or there's going to be a party at that place, rather than wasn't so much established venues, although you did have Bagleys and places like that.
Yeah, but I mean, by the time I was going out, it was in this funny transition where they got scared of the original scene. And so I remember I missed these raves, but only just. So Funky, who runs Moondance now, at the time was doing Elevation. They did, in the summer of 94, 3 events at Crystal Palace National Sports Centre, which is the centre of excellence for English sport. And they were doing 8 p.m. till 8 a.m. hardcore and jungle raves in the home of English sport and getting licenses to do it. And there's no way you'd be allowed to do that now. But it was this era where they were so scared of it going underground. It was like there's World Dance at Lid Airport, all of these amazing spaces being used for raves. And I was sort of all in really from about 95 is when I went to my first rave. Then I started going to Labyrinth in Dalston. And that was on, Fridays and Saturdays every week. Had a little crew of us that went raving. Those are the ones.
There's a couple of the artworks
and then
one as well.
Yeah, the elevation and reincarnation parties. Yeah. So and it was, so there was like obviously the raves, the flyers, the pirate stations, but also the record shops. So there was like Remix in Camden, Black Market in Unity in the West End. When I was really near my school, so I went to school in Pimlico. And as I was about 15, Elite Records opened up. So Jason, shout out to Jason, that opened up Elite about 10 minutes walk from my school. So I actually did my work experience there. One of my first design jobs, I designed the record bags for Elite Records, and he let me do a website. He had no idea. No one wanted a website. I was just like, I wanted to do a website. So I did this website for Elite Records. And I used to basically bunk school and smoke cigarettes in Elite Records. Just, they'd let me behind the counter and, mix some tunes and things like that. So it was all, there was record shops, raves, flyers, pirate stations. It was such a buzz, that whole scene, and so out of the mainstream. Yeah, do
you remember this flyer?
Yeah, I've got a bag full of flyers. I think either in my house or my mum's house.
This one is, believe it or not, this flyer is actually for sale on eBay for the World Dance at Lid Airport, 1994. Yeah, and there you go. It's going for 21 quid at the minute. So if you've got a stack of them, hang on to them.
Yeah, there's a few things like that where I'm holding on to stuff like originals, wondering if I can create a little false market, like just drip feed them out, 20 quid, false scarcity.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. So you became sort of you were partly entranced by the music, but it was also, I suppose it was the whole fabric of the thing, pun fully intended, the flyers, the look. You're a bit of an artist yourself.
Yeah.
What was the first flyer that you designed for anyone? Did that happen early on, or did that come later?
So doing it for someone on getting paid for it came a bit later. I think so. As well as music, I'd always been very into design. I was always like creating little things for myself. The first job I ever had after school, so before I went to uni and studied graphic design, for 2 years I worked in a printers, and there I was, one of the perks of the job, I was able to run out lots of my own stuff. So I was making loads of promo for myself. I was playing by this point, so I left school in 97, 98. So by that point, I was around then I'd got onto Addiction FM. So Steve Uplift had started Addiction. So right at the end of the 90s, as the happy hardcore thing was waning, there was a bit of a resurgence, and Addiction FM came on air. I'd got in with them and still very good friends with Steve now. And so I was doing bits and bobs for them, doing stuff myself. And then, for a few smaller promoters, I'm trying to remember I can't remember actually what the very first flyer would have done commercially was. it wasn't until a lot later that I started doing the Raindance flyers.
Is Addiction FM still going?
No, Addiction lasted 2 years, 3 years, something like that.
Right. Yeah, I was just
so
looking at that.
Yeah, there's probably not a lot of remnants. So we did 2 parties in Tottenham, Addicted to Dance 1 and 2. I mean, I was just a DJ on the station, but I say we because
Right.
You know, I played at them and felt very involved. But
yeah,
they went really, really well. But it was at the sort of tail end of Pirate being feasible, to an extent, especially a hardcore Pirate. But yeah, they put a lot of money into it and weren't getting a lot back. The DTI were chopping us a lot. I think there'd been, you know, people getting arrested. So yeah, that fell by the wayside, and a few of us then moved on to Eruption FM, and Eruption is one of the big daddies from when I was, you know, younger. When I first started tuning in on radio dialing around '93, Eruption was one of the big ones. Stevie Hyper D used to be on it sometimes, Nicky Black Market, people like that. So that was a bit of a buzz getting on there. So I played on there, and that's now going. There's a kind of split, but there's Eruption Radio, which Steve Uplift, the guy I'm mentioning, is very involved in, and Andy Clockwork and people like that. And then there's the original Eruption FM, which is not on the radio dial anymore, but the Demolition Crew and some of the others involved in that, the originals, are still doing bits, I think. So yeah, they're all still kicking about.
So I mean, it's fair to say you were pretty heavily involved both as a DJ quite early on in your life in this scene, and it was an evolving, changing scene towards the end of the 90s. As you say, something sort of becoming more fashionable. Music went a bit darker. Drum, bass, and jungle had kind of taken over in some areas. Garage became very big at the end of the 90s as well. Because I remember I moved back to London in 97, 98, and I was trying to find an Orange Party, and I think they were done by then.
Yeah.
They finished in the 90s at some point. And yeah, I mean, so it was quite an evolving scene. Tell us how you first came to be involved in Raindance and how that all came about.
So yeah, like you say, I was kind of all in on it from my mid-teens and determined that that's, you know, I wanted to sort of carve a path through into the rave scene, have my little stake in it. And so by the end of the 90s, the happy hardcore thing that I'd been very involved in was waning a little bit. Music had kind of, it'd gone down a certain path and, you know, had lost a lot of its popularity. I'd, in response to that as a DJ, been looking back a little bit, and I'd been collecting older records, you know, stuff from before I was going out that was the sort of genesis to all of that. So sort of 1990, 91, 92, 93, building up this big record collection of like older tunes. And so and around that same sort of time, so about 97, 98 sort of time, as the music's evolved, like you say, there was this beginning of like an old school revival. So old school became like a scene in its own right. There was like hardcore drum and bass, and then suddenly these old school rooms were like the busiest things at rave. So you'd go to Fusion or Helter Skelter, and there'd be an old school room that was absolutely heaving. Rat Pack made a big comeback. Got very obsessed with Rat Pack around that time, and so that all kind of led to me being kind of an old school DJ as much as I was a hardcore DJ. And I'd through a few different connections become friendly with a guy called Paul, MC Ice. So I'd met him at Labyrinth. We kind of knew lots of the same people, you know, it's quite a small world. And
indeed.
like, it's it's like it's what is it, 6 degrees of separation or whatever. You're only a few steps away from whoever. And so a guy who was MCing for me a lot, MC Rave on Rami, he got to know Paul. Me and Paul got connected. Paul had just started MCing for Richard. And at this point, Raindance, because of the old school thing bubbling up, had gone from, they were doing sort of small reunion parties around 95, 96, which I'd never been to. And then they came to the pleasure rooms in Tottenham, which is where Labyrinth was, a few other things. And I was there quite a lot. So that's when I first started going to Raindance parties, and they were, you know, like really good parties. There was just something a bit different about them. And they did this sister party called Yabba Dabba Doo, which was a gong show. So it was like a DJ talent show, basically. And I was on the radio. I was playing out quite a bit by that point. And I entered playing old school and won. And sort of then I met Grace, G Magical, Spider, and a few others. So started getting to know some of the people kind of more involved with Raindance. And over the next year or so, I was trying to, like, I was slipping Richard tapes. We'd go out and, like, I think one of the things that kind of got me in with Raindance was, like, it's very much billed as like a party for ravers by ravers. So, you know, everyone involved in Raindance is, you know, it's not a cynical commercial operation trying to take, it's like people who really love it. And I was able to kind of keep up with the partying, if you like. So we'd go out.
Yeah.
Got on very well with everyone. We'd be out all weekend. And then Richard heard me DJ a couple of times. And the big break for me with Raindance was around that time, end of the 90s, New School Breaks, which was something that had come out mid-90s from where it was all splitting. There was a whole group of people that retained that kind of earlier 90s tempo and started doing breaks and bass music at that, called New School. And I had started to get really into that, but only at a, you know, I wasn't really so into it that I was playing whole sets of it or had gone all the way. I was just starting to slip some of it into my old school set. So I was doing this, I guess, quite interesting old school, new school mixture. And Richard heard me doing that, and he'd been trying to work out basically a way of getting new school into his parties. And just said to me, do you think you could do that in front of a big room? And obviously I was, yeah, of course, yeah, no problem. And basically that one thing led to another. I did a set at Raindance at the Drome in a small room. And then New Year's Eve 2000, I played in the main room at 2 a.m., 1,500 people. It's like the biggest night of my life. It's still like, you know, DJ, like life-defining moment. And played old school and new school together, like, I think for the first time in a big old school room like that. And it went down really well, smashed it. And from that point, I was kind of a fixture in the main room. Still played in the hardcore room a little bit and was all in with Raindance. And
was this when it was at the former car park, the Drome, which then became the SeOne? Is that when it was there?
Yeah, so I'd kind of got friendly with Richard before the Drome. So when it was at the pleasure rooms, sort of loosely got to know him, and we started going out with that lot a little bit. And then as it moved to the Drome, sort of, I think that was in 1999, the first party, sort of towards the end, like the second or third party at the Drome, I played in this smaller room. And then New Year's Eve that year, he did kind of semi-last minute. It wasn't last minute, but like, it was like there was an opportunity. He'd done this New Year's Eve party, it really went off. And then for a little period, Raindance was the party. That, like, at the Drome, it was one of those things, like, musically, that venue, like the energy around the party, there was just a moment where it was like the party, I would say, in England, but definitely in London.
Yeah, I think most of the big brands have kind of had that moment. You know, Labyrinth had its big heyday. Same with Orange, same with Peach. You know, they're all slightly different. Each brand is unique and has their own unique characters and music attached to their label, if you like. Although that's slightly the wrong term to use, but and it's been fascinating for me, kind of re-embarking on this journey a couple of years ago, rediscovering all this stuff. But also, I mean, I'm attending the events that I missed because I wasn't on the scene at all between when I was back in London between 95 going into the early 2000s. I missed a lot. I mean, I missed it all. I was so career focused on, I've got to be a film director, I've got to be a playwright, and I wasn't going out dancing. Lions in the chat has just said, I can't wait to go to Raindance. You and me both, mate. I'll be there. also mentioned orange, peach, and strawberry Sunday. Yeah, so I give a shout out to Duncan Disorderly as well. I do like strawberry Sunday. Went to my first one of those towards the end of last year. I'd done a peach and strawberry where they combined the two events, but I hadn't done Duncan's one, and I have to say it was the nicest bunch of people. I made some really good friends that I met for the first time at that event. I think that's true of every event I've been to. There's always been a new friend that I've made. Who would have thought we'd be making friends at this age?
I think that's the magic of this world. Yeah, I mean, that was always the thing that got me in originally, is like the equivalent, like when I discovered rave when I was young, you know, the alternative was like a classic West End type nightclub, which was, you know, not the same at all.
Don't go there. Two women dancing around their handbags in the
exactly,
middle of the floor, and, you know,
Sharon and Tracy clubs, or whatever you want to call
it. And guys kind of squaring up for a fight at the end of the night. I talk about that in my book, actually. And
shoes and shirts, and you know, all of that kind of stuff. Versus going to Labyrinth, going to Raindance, going to you know, Bagley's, Slammin Vinyl, whatever it was. And like you say, you could walk in with one group, leave with another. Everyone, you know, it's just so friendly, so open. I've been Strawberry Sunday. That was a good party back in the day. There used to be, what was it? Cloud 9 in Vauxhall. I think I haven't been to one since 1996 or whenever it was. They were still doing it.
Yeah, they did a couple at Cloud 9 that I missed last year, and then the last one was at that one in the Arches in Waterloo. Where the security, it has to be said, were way too heavy-handed. Why are you taking a deodorant off me? It can be used as a weapon. What am I going to do? Turn it into a flamethrower? What are you on about? Just ridiculous. So, you know, you come home from dancing for 6 hours, whether you're sober or not, you're going to pong, and you're going to need deodorant and your perfumes and whatnot. And everybody was so annoyed that they took them off. And I said, well, can't you just put it to one side? I'll come and collect it on the way out. No, we can't do that. Well, what are you going to do with it all then? Wander off, take it down the market and sell it the next day. Lawrence was clearly there because he's saying, security was mental at the Arches, awful. And it weren't about, you know, it wasn't just, I know they've got a job to do and they can't have people bringing in hordes of things or weapons or whatever. But that was ridiculous. It was really silly. So let's get back to you. So you've done your stuff at Raindance. Where does that take you in the timeline? Up to what year?
So getting in with Raindance was kind of the turn of the millennium, if you like. So New Year's Eve 2000 is when I'd first played it. They'd moved to Drome in 99. Early 2000 or mid 2000 I played. That New Year's Eve I'd sort of broke into the main room. The other detail, sort of my connection with Raindance from a design perspective, is as I was going to uni, so end of sort of September 2000. So I'd got in with Raindance. I'd, you know, started, you know, getting in with Richard and the crew and that, and was DJing a little bit, and didn't have a lot of money. I was like, I'd been working for a couple of years, but was going to uni to do graphic design. Richard, shrewd businessman that he is, but generous man that he is as well, came up with an idea, and he proposed to me, can you, like, it was in the days where having a website was quite a novelty. Not everyone had websites, but he was like, I think we need a website. Could you build one if I bought you a computer? Because I didn't have a computer. So he basically bought me a computer, which saw me through uni. And for me at the time, felt like an amazing deal. But then he basically bought that computer. I can't remember how much it was. And then that was my payment for like 4 or 5 years of web design work, basically. So I ended up then being the kind of web designer, webmaster for Raindance. I wasn't doing the flyers. That was a guy called Mark French at the time, also a DJ. And so I'd got in and was doing the website, and so I'd gone to uni to study graphic design. Was DJing a lot. I was DJing at that point. So I was resident at Raindance, but I was also resident at Moondance. I was playing at like Slammin Vinyl, Helter Skelter, and other places a little bit. So yeah, that was probably when I was most prolific as a DJ. And design-wise was just sort of cutting my teeth. I'd gone to uni doing the kind of web design stuff. And yeah, that sort of led me to, I guess, the early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, I went to my first Moondance towards the end of last year. I was a bit worried it was going to be, that was at Coco.
Oh, nice, yeah.
And I was a bit worried it was going to be a bit too drum and bassy. It wasn't, it was fine. And then I was also at the one at 338. And there I am on the podium. That's my favourite spot in that room, with Anushka, who's on my right, with random guy with white t-shirt on who sort of became our podium buddy. It was absolutely mental rammed. I mean, it was crazy busy, but it was a great event. But we did duck out a bit early, just because of the sheer numbers and the lack of space. But we had a good time. We had a good time.
That's a very authentic Moondance experience. I remember being at Moondance once in Bagley's. I can't remember what year it was. It'd have been 97, something like that. And it was,
right.
I've never seen Bagley's so full. There must have been 4,500 people in there or something. I don't know how many over capacity it was, but it was like you could literally be on the dance floor for about 15 minutes before you had to go outside again. It was insane.
Yeah, I mean, it was because you had that main space upstairs, didn't you, past the cloakroom? I don't know if that was still the same layout in 97, but when I was there in 92, you'd come in, you'd go, there was that cloakroom area, and then you had them stairs that went up on the right, I think, and they went to the big long warehouse room that had the stage at the back.
Yes.
Is that your recollection of it? And I was used to dance on the right side of that stage, which was quite a crude stage when it was first there. It was, I can't remember exactly, but I seem to recall that the construction of it was, shall we say, borderline health and safety atrocious. So it probably got rebuilt when the club got a bit busier, but it was pretty mental when I went there in 92. I always got very few memories of it, but what I do have is it was packed.
Yeah, I mean, so Bagley's was one of those, it was like you realised how the rave scene kind of ran. Like when, you know, you listen to tape packs and growing up, and Bagley's was like the pinnacle. It would be like playing at Wembley or something. And I DJed at Bagley's a few times. One of my little DJ claims, I actually played in every room at Bagley's. That was one of my little box ticking things. But
you were probably there when Kirk Field was working, I would imagine. It would have been that it. And they created a one-way flow system through the club.
Oh, okay. Right.
Remember that? I don't know if you remember that, to keep people moving. And you know, you had to go further into the club to go back, kind of thing.
Okay.
This was all after I was there. But,
well, what I was going to say is it always shocked me how rudimentary lots of it was. Like you imagined it was going to be, you know, the best of the best, but DJing there was often quite hard work. Like, you know, a monitor would blow, needles would go. Like I'd always take my own needles when I was DJing, but like, you know, there was it. You just imagined it was all going to be perfect. Like if you play at Fabric or something now, state of the art, all the best things, amazing sound. But Bagley's always felt more like it had that one foot in the old rave scene where it was all a bit like, you know, like you say, health and safety was the least of their concerns.
No, indeed. What I mean, was there a stage? Because I know you work more as a designer for a living, and we'll look at your graphic design company in a second, give you a bit of a plug for that. But before you got into all that, was there a stage where you were sort of juggling the little jobs? You know, web designer for Raindance, you were DJing, you were maybe doing a bit of flyer design. Was there a time when you were making a healthy living at that, and that was your job? Did that sustain itself, and so for how long?
So I would say there was probably a bit like a footballer. I'd say at one point I was like a semi-pro DJ, if you like. I never really made it make me enough money to be my living. But there was a time when it was more my priority, and I was like out of uni, I got a job straight away at a design agency in London Bridge, actually, just round the corner from SeOne. And I was sort of split between the two things. It wasn't super high paying, like was a junior designer, but it, gave me enough to kind of be able to focus a bit on the DJing, sort of music production stuff that I was doing at the time. But yeah, I never quite fully committed, I don't think, on the DJ thing. That's a bit of advice I got actually from Mark Ratpack at Bagley's, actually, when I was first introduced to him. Richard introed me as a sort of young up and coming DJ, and he basically said that to me, that you won't make it until you're relying on it. If you are to make ends meet, you have to find DJ gigs. He said, you'll become a DJ. And I did take that advice, but I applied it elsewhere. If you know what I mean. Right. I think it was very, very sound advice, but that's what's led me to doing. I haven't had a boss now for about 15 years.
Because question in the chat from Lions, can you still make a good living as a DJ these days? Well, obviously Carl Cox is doing all right, but not everybody's at that level.
So I think I know some people who do very well. I think it just is it's difficult in the sort of old rave scene to make a lot of money. But if in the sort of slightly more commercial house and techno, there are plenty of people doing very well out of it. It's a lot more commercialized than it used to be. But it's also diluted in a way. Everybody wants to be a DJ, as the old record says.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot more accessible now because of the kit that you can buy and the fact that it's not vinyl and mixing. You can teach yourself how to mix and sure. Did you at what point? I mean, you may well not have done this yet, but at what point did you do the Holy Grail and go to Ibiza? Did that happen?
Yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Ibiza. Yeah, the first time I went to Ibiza.
Yeah, it was the first time you went as a punter, as a clubber.
Yeah, so to be honest, I've never really cracked it or tried to DJing wise. I've DJ'd out there at very small places, but not really. I wouldn't say I've been a DJ.
When was the first time? I'm interested in this. When was the first time you went as a punter? What year was that?
2002 or 3. I can't remember exactly, but early 2000s, 2 or 3.
So the big clubs then would have been Space, Manumission, Pasha.
Yeah, so Manumission at Privilege. It was in bed with Space, and there was like the S Paradise and that in, and Pasha obviously. El Divino's near Pasha was a big one. It was pre DC10 and all that.
And when was the last time you went? So the first time 2002. Last time you went was when?
Last summer.
Last summer. So in those 20-something years, apart from the obvious, oh my God, some places charge €16 for a bottle of water now. Apart from those obvious price hikes and the fact that people on the island can't even afford to live there, the cooks, the cleaners, and the policemen, some of them are sleeping in. I mean, that's a whole other podcast. But what, in terms of the actual scene itself, what's changed about it? What hasn't changed? What's better? What's not great? Talk us through that a little bit.
It's difficult. Better is so subjective. It's
entirely your opinion, of course, but
so from my perspective, being that I'm older now and remember, I've seen it in different eras. The advent of phones and everyone having a camera and what that does to the way that you experience things. Like last time I saw Black Coffee at High. So High is what used to be Space. And I was intrigued to go in there because I've spent quite a lot of time in Space when it was Space. And from the outside, it looks the same. So I was like, they've done this multi-million pound refits. And it's completely baffling. It's like you go inside and it's a completely different place. I spent half the night trying to piece it back together. what was this bit and where was that bit? And like the quality of everything, like it's an amazing. I'd equate it a little bit to like I'm a big Tottenham fan, and the new stadium, it's like the best stadium we've ever been in, but somehow it's lost a bit of the soul. And like, so the more rudimentary space. And so I went into the main room with Black Coffee playing, and it's incredible screen thing that happens behind him. It's like, you know, state of the art, like the whole sky is moving. But everything's just
a bit like having a DJ playing an IMAX cinema kind of thing, you know.
Almost, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And the light's perfect, the sound's amazing, but it was like it was shoulder to shoulder, so you couldn't really dance. And everyone's just got their phone in the air, and it's just a completely different way of experiencing it. And I remember Space like just being this wild party, and you know, like it was kind of a bit like we were saying with Bagley's. It wasn't really production. It wasn't like, you know, state of the art IMAX production and all of that kind of thing. It was just a big sound system, a terrace, and the world's best DJs, and it was open 23 hours a day. It was just this mad party.
Yeah, waving to the planes as they came into land, kind of thing.
All of that, yeah. So it's for me, like it's like the society thing. You know, like we've lost a little bit of being in the moment and all that experience by being connected. So lots of it on the surface is better. Like the production's better. The club is more comfortable. The toilets are nicer.
Yeah,
all of
nice
that.
Toilets is always a good thing for sure.
The best room in the club actually was the toilets. That was the one old school party. They had a DJ in the toilets, and he was playing kind of classic house. I spent all night in the toilet, which was good.
Listening to classic house tunes while you're doing your business, reading the paper. That's bonkers. I've never been to Ibiza, and I feel I've got to do it. And I just feel like, am I going to be getting a soulless commercial experience that's going to cost me an arm and a leg? And, you know, because I feel like I'm getting very visceral, very real experiences on the day rave scene in London, which we'll come on to shortly. So, I mean, but it does feel like this rite of passage that I haven't done. But maybe the moment we've done it has gone, and what it is now is, you know, doesn't justify the cost. I don't know what your take is.
I would take it for what it was. I think so. I hadn't been for quite a while when we went. It was a mate's stag do, and we did it properly. It was like full on Ibiza experience. But I would say just go for it. It's, you know, and where you don't have a reference point, it's not like it's going to ruin old memories. It's still, you know, these epic giant clubs, really good music. There's places like Underground, which is smaller, a bit more intimate, really good music, more like just a good party without all the frills. There's still it's an amazing place. I would say definitely go.
Yeah, and some of the best sunsets in the world, of course, which you know,
absolutely,
is hard to beat. So we've seen this massive explosion of the day rave scene in London, and I think it's fair to say that it's probably one of the best end results of the pandemic happening, because I'm not sure the day rave scene would have quite been what it is. There were already daytime events before the pandemic. There was already a few daytime events in 2019. I remember them, but they were nothing like the ones there are now, and nor was there as many of them, and not everybody had embraced it. Now in London alone, there's 3 to 4 to choose from most weekends, and you know, you've got promoters already booking weekends going well into 2026 because they want to grab that weekend that they've got in mind before somebody else does with that venue. I mean, for me as a punter, it's fantastic, you know, because I've got, and my taste in music is very eclectic. So I like trance as much as I like house. There's only a few of us that are like that, but we often see each other. You know, there's a small clan of us that like both, and I also like hardcore as well. And so there's a few of us that we see at all the events right across the board. So it's great for me because there's always something that I can go to and I can have a dance. What would you say that's great about the day rave scene that we have now that maybe we didn't have before the pandemic? Because it felt like clubbing was dying a bit before the pandemic, I would say.
Yeah, I think there's a load of things that have come together to sort of create the conditions for it, like you're describing. There was obviously the pandemic resetting things a little bit, giving people maybe the enthusiasm. I think there's these cycles, like I was saying. There was that original moment, the explosion of the rave scene at the end of the 80s, early 90s. The end of the 90s, there was this like second coming of old school where, you know, younger people rediscovered that music and some of those older people were coming back out. And I think we're in another cycle now where, like, I love Raindance, partly because I'm still, however old I get, I still always feel a little bit young at Raindance because I'm like slightly younger to that scene. But you know, like everyone's sort of that era is over 40, over 50. So to get somewhere like Heaven, which is this, you know, iconic from right back in the day, the sort of Spectrum parties, the original acid house vibes, to have a club like that, all guns blazing, you know, wall to wall, like amazing DJ lineup, and to be able to, like, as you know, the age everyone's at now, go and have this big party, but then not kill your whole weekend and maybe the next week by being out till 7 a.m. It just all works so well.
I would agree. I mean, I did one event last year, the name of which will come to me shortly. It's at Scala, and it had, you know, different music in different rooms. That was on until 5 a.m, and I was there till 2, and that was a lot for me. And I was well and truly done by 2 o'clock. I had to go home. I love the day rave thing because I get there first thing. I'm always straight out on the dance floor. It's like the gym for me. I've lost 2 stone in weight since all the pandemic fat has all gone. So I mean, and it's also got a great social scene. I mean, it's not like you're going to get on with everybody that you meet there, as with any place, but I have made a huge number of friends that I never would have met otherwise. And we do other things. We've gone for dinners and day trips to the coast and, you know, all kinds of stuff. I've had people around my house for dinner. I've gone to people's houses for dinner. We've gone and seen movies. We've done all kinds of things. At a time where kind of friends in my life were dropping off left and right, you know, people move away, people pass away, that kind of thing. So I think, for me, and I know I speak for a lot of other people, it's massive for us. It's become massively important. It's a huge mental health thing as well. Huge.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me, you know, like I was saying, getting into this world back in the day as, you know, like as a teenager, like it's a huge cultural movement that happened in those times. You know, it's like a big part of like my identity. There's a big, you know, cultural identity for a lot of people. All these different scenes are like in us. And as you get older, like, you know, like you say, it's harder to just keep going out and smashing it Friday night, Saturday night in the way that you did when you were sort of in your 20s or younger. But it's still, you know, like you say, for mental health, just for, like, I went to World Dance, did a day into the night party recently, and that was their first party for 20 odd years. I saw loads of people that I used to see out raving. I had some of people I hadn't seen for 15 years and stuff. And it's that keeping you connected to culturally, to your roots and to that whole world.
Yeah, I met one girl who used to hold my spot on the stage at Bagley's. We used to like cover each other when we went to the toilet and this kind of thing, called Nicola Jane. And I think her husband's a DJ. Just trying to remember. I think it might be Big Chief Keith. And the first time we met each other since 1992 was at Labyrinth. last year.
Nice.
We were looking at each other across the courtyard, and I was thinking, I know her from somewhere. And she was like looking at me going, I know you from somewhere. And I went over to her and said, we know each other, don't we? And she said, yeah, you used to have really long hair. And I was like, yeah, that was me. And it just suddenly go, well, it's you. You know, it was, yeah, that was nuts. Absolutely bonkers.
Nice.
But those moments are special as well, you know. So let's before we wind up, because we're nearly at an hour, I'm gonna plug some of your other stuff, and we'll kind of round up with talking about Raindance again. So talk to us about Airborne Studio a little bit. This is your design studio, would that be fair to say?
Yeah. So yeah, it's it's kind of branding and design studio, but we do a lot of kind of development work. So we build digital products and software as well as doing a lot of branding stuff. So it's called Airborne because as I turned 30, so about 15 years ago, which is sort of where I stopped DJing so much, is I decided I wanted to travel, and went bit kamikaze, just got a one-way ticket to Rio, took my laptop and started working
to Rio.
Yeah. So
did you still have the laptop after walking on the beach with it? You know.
Well, I didn't take it on the beach, and I was only in Rio for a few days, and carried on moving. But I spent a year in South America. It was a shit, clunky old laptop as well, so I definitely don't still have it. But yeah, a year in South America, then a year in China, and basically spent a long time kind of hopping around. And that was just freelancing, and over time, that was like 15 years ago, I've kind of built a bit of a network and then a business off the back of it. So now we do a lot of bigger projects like branding projects, building websites, building bits of software even. So it's pretty full on now. It's my day job. But you could sort of see, I think
you cover quite a few different bases here.
There's
people that want to check it out.
Yeah, I've got there's a big team of us now, so it's I run it. It's mostly kind of freelancers, independents, but there's a big group of us doing stuff, and probably I think in some of the branding you can see some of my old kind of hardcore roots. Smiley faces appear, and it's a little bit playful. So
there's a few things I saw pop up on here. And is that this is your predominant sort of source of income now?
Yes, no. So this is the business that I run, and it's very full on. Yeah, it's like takes up most of my time running that.
But, and then we also have no dress code, which is kind of a merch thing.
Yes.
Not much of it is available currently.
It's all. Yeah, so it's all sold out at the moment. We did a kind of initial drop where I was kind of testing out different suppliers. We did a load of designs, spoke to Richard and did some kind of Raindancey stuff as a sort of starting point. My plan, just talking about Airborne at the moment, is so full on. It's kind of swallowing up a lot of my time. But we didn't actually talk about where I ended up with Raindance sort of towards the end of the 2000s, before I kind of went off and started Airborne. I was starting to do all the flyers. So there's a series of sort of flyer artworks. One of them's on the back there on the right that I'd done. That's an older one. But so sort of celebrating that a little bit, I started looking at some of these. So by the end of the year, we'll have landed on the right supplier. And all of this stuff will be back in stock. There's a whole load of other designs as well that aren't up, Raindance and some other ones. So it's a bit of a labour of love, a bit of a way of me keeping my hat in the ring in the scene and exercising some of those creative juices.
So you're going to be playing at Raindance the Saturday all day, 15th of November, and the link for tickets I put it in the chat previously, but I'll whack it in again in a second. What what's a Lukozade set? What can we expect?
So for this one, like what I was most known for like back in the day when I was playing at Raindance more prolifically was this mix of like old school and new school. I was thinking about doing something a bit like that at Heaven. Last time I played a slightly quicker set, so more 93 stuff, the kind of stuff I was very into as I first got into it. So yeah, 91, 92 with a few unexpected bits thrown in. I've probably all I can tell you at the moment.
Okay. We don't want to incur Richard's wrath. So
yes. Well, also, the way we were talking before we came on air about DJing as an art form and stuff, and I think one of the things I enjoy most is not being too planned. So I'll take way more music than I need. I'll have some ideas of like 2 or 3 things I might start with. I've got one good thing that I learned from Carl Cox from a magazine interview that I read, which has become, again, now with the merch shop, I might put this on a t-shirt because this is a bit of a mantra for me for life. But so my little mantra is life is like a DJ set. And what that comes from is I read an article once with Carl Cox where he says he never plans a set, but from every single tune he has in his bag, there are at least 3 different routes out of it. So 3 tunes he could to pick from it. And he always thinks 3 tunes ahead. So he's not planned, but he's, it's tactical, if you like. So I borrowed that for DJing. So I think in a similar way, like I'll have 3 or 4 tunes I might start with. And from each of them, there's 3 or 4 I could go, different directions I could take it. But I've tried to live life a bit like that as well, like with the traveling and work and things. Like I don't want to plan from now till eternity, but you also don't want to live in chaos. So life is like a DJ set. It's my Carl Cox life philosophy.
I think that's a good note to end on. I mean, after Raindance, are you playing any other gigs this year? Is there anything else you would like to plug before we wrap up?
So DJ wise, not really. No, like I don't do loads nowadays. Like I come out a couple of times a year for Richard, probably the odd bit here and there. I'm just about to move back to London, and I've got a few more connections and stuff down there, which might start getting me out the woodwork a bit more. But yeah, in terms of things to plug, maybe to put a bit of pressure on the process, there's no dress code by the end of the year. Should be interesting. So no dress code.club, keep an eye on that. And also the Cult to Culture books, which we didn't actually talk a lot about, the fly design portion of my life with Raindance, but did a lot of really interesting work on the sort of the design side of things for Raindance. And I've written some text, and we're sort of looking at what else needs to go in that to bring that together as the next Cult to Culture book. So hopefully, it's not it's early in the process at this point, but watch out for that as well. But other than that, just great to chat.
I've seen those books. I think I've actually got one of them in a bag here. Let me have a quick look. Although, here we go. Is it these, right?
Exactly that, yeah. So there's been 3 of them so far. There's the original one is the sort of just like the anthology of like old Raindance photos, and there you go. And then there's one focused on Pez.
Classic pictures of different people at different Raindance events. I mean, this is the sort of thing, it's exactly that. Yeah, it's like a historical document of Raindance through the ages, isn't it?
And then the last one was focused on Pez, who is probably the rave scene's most iconic flyer artwork person.
Right.
So he's a good mate of mine now. All of the seminal 90s airbrushed flight Helter Skelter, Raindance, One Nation, loads of them. Brilliant artist. So the last one was focused around his artwork, and he was instrumental in the kind of early kind of Raindance stuff. Me and him did some work together in the later days. I did my fair share of sort of big Raindance flyers towards the end. So
Fantastic.
yeah, hopefully we'll get one out that's sort of celebrating that.
Great. Well, Luke, thanks so much for giving up your free time and coming on this Thursday evening. And if once you've been on this channel, you're considered to be a member of the Outcast Creative. If you've ever got anything you want to plug, or you have a big event coming up, consider this door open as a place for you to return to plug your wares, so to speak. I'll also give you a book. I'll give my book a quick plug. Here's my friend Lulu holding her copy of Back to Raving at 50. That dropped a few weeks ago. I've written 16 books in my life. This one is selling faster than any other book I've ever written. I mean, that's really great. I'm quite chuffed because I just wasn't even sure if people would find it interesting. I've got a copy of it here. I'm going to be at Raindance. You can pre-order this from me. Just get in touch with me via Facebook, Lance Dean Anthony Nielsen, or on Twitter, Lance Nielsen WD. You can pre-order a copy from me ahead of Raindance, and I'll bring a signed copy for you to Raindance if you're coming there. The softback cover is the house cover. So if you're going to Raindance, that's probably the one that you're going to want. The hardback is the trance cover. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. sharp, I'm going to be interviewing director of photography, Richard Oakes, who just shot my last movie for me. But he's a director, producer in his own right. He's done about 8 feature films. He's currently making Jinx, some of which there's a poster for it on the left-hand side there. He's actually filming that today. Got his whole family involved. So looking forward to chatting with him. I've been trying to get him on for absolutely ages, for about 4 years. So great that I've finally managed to get him on, probably because I just got him a job. So that helped, I think. So Luke, thanks ever so much for coming on the channel. And it's been really interesting. I mean, we could have easily gone for another hour. I told you this thing, it just passes really, really fast. And there's so many stories about the rave scene, and it's really interesting hearing the different routes people have gone into it, and their experiences with different brands, whether they're part of the brand or a punter. It's really fascinating. So thank you so much for sharing those stories. Big shout out to Richard at Raindance. We will both be there. So if you see us there, do come up and say hello. And let's pack out Luke's room when he's playing. What time are you on at Raindance?
Good question. Yeah, I don't know. We need to get in contact with Rich and find that out. Hopefully some point in the middle of the afternoon, which is prime time.
Well,
these day raves.
I'll be heading to your room. All right, so that's it from us. Remember what I always say. Don't forget to stay in touch with the people that you care about. Give them a call from time to time. Tell them that you love them. We are very disconnected in this era of modern communication, believe it or not. And it's always important to stay in touch. I'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Until then, here comes the song.
Hang out with the Lance at the Outcast Creative, where all the misfits and dreamers get innovative. It's film, TV, and theater in the mix. Industry interviews, where ideas get their fix. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Interviews with fellow artists on the rise, and reviews that might surprise. Films, TV shows from back in the day. You might just find a hidden gem today. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, we're breaking through. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew. Filmmakers, comic book creators, stand up proud. Actors, musicians, board game designers, be loud. At Outcast Creative, amazing's the word. He even interviewed the legend, Galen Hurd. He's creative, we're creative. How about you? Share your passion, join the crew. At Outcast Creative, passion, your art, your flair. At Outcast Creative, there's always room to share. Hang with Lance and the Outcast crew.